So we've identified a problem. We can see that there is some kind of a battle going on. The real enemy is confusion and frustration in our child. And we need to help them get over this hurdle and move into learning. And this right here is where we need to start tapping. And we're going to call this in our stand. So the S is for spy what the real enemy is, confusion and overwhelm. In this step, we're tapping on the why. So going back to our backdrop of what it is that we're talking about, or a potential example of what could be an area of confusion, and it's math. There's this teeter-totter point, goodness, in math, that math goes from being fun and easy, learning your numbers and shapes and patterning and skip counting and all that stuff. And then it turns into, wow, I don't have to use my brain to actually solve some of these things. And if you're watching closely, when you're working with your child, suddenly the light starts to dim in their eyes. They loved math yesterday, but something's not right today. They're just not getting it. And they have to be using math in a different way. And this is where we need to tap on the why. This is especially true with your older kids, because school stuff is fun in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. As your kids get older, and it's different for everybody, somewhere between third and 11th grade, something becomes unfun. And they can't see their way out. All they see is the next lesson with 47 problems of things that they don't really care about. And so you need to tap on the why. And I had taught another lesson earlier and you can find it on my YouTube channel. But one of the things that we need to do with our older kids is that when that light starts to go out, when you see that they've lost their joy in learning, it's because they don't see a purpose in what they're doing. They're not really interested in it, and they're not very engaged. And so it's at this point in the road, it's kind of one of those crossroads where math was fun when they were little because it made sense to figure out that this many equals 5, and 5 can be represented with fingers or a digit or dots or hash marks, whatever. It was very magical for them to turn this idea of this many into a symbolic number that then they can do things with, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But at some point, it's like, okay, well, but why do I need to know how to convert pounds to ounces, and why do I need to know how to reduce and multiply fractions, and when do you flip the fractions around? They need to know why. So with math, you want to look at the concept, and you want to help your child see that if they're learning fractions and they're frustrated, okay, you recognize that they're not your enemy and you're not their enemy. So why? Why do we learn fractions? And math has so many whys behind it. In our house, fractions are super important because we have a big family. And that means when I go to make a batch of cookies, one batch of cookies does not feed the troop of sailors that we have under our roof. So we need to double, triple, quadruple recipes all the time. So if a recipe calls for 1/4 of a cup, and we're going to triple the recipe, suddenly those fractions become very simple. Not simple, but they become valuable. And yes, you can take a 1/4 cup measuring spoon and you can measure 1, 2, 3 quarters, or you can learn the math so that you know that a triple batch is 3/4 of a cup. And so why? Why do we learn fractions? In real life, that's very practical for cooking. Why do we learn decimals? In real life, that's very handy for money management. How much is this plus that? You need the decimals to figure that out. Percentages, very important for determining which thing is a better deal. Is it this percentage off the total price or $2 off the total price? Which is the better deal? So percentages have a very practical application in real life. And so with any math concept, if that's what's tripping them up, you need to step back and say, okay, the lesson doesn't matter. What is the why behind this lesson? Currently, in my state of life right this moment, our youngest son is struggling with calculus in college. And he also is in high school taking a college math class, calculus. And so when we're looking at his calculus and we're talking to him, we talk about, well, what's the why? Why do you need to know calculus? Practically, he can't think of why he needs to know calculus because it doesn't look like it's going to be part of his future. However, there are other whys in this class. The why is, what are you going to do? Why is it important to raise your hand and ask for help before your boat is full of water? It's like, so why do you ask for help and how do you find, so why and how do you find the help that you need? Sometimes the why is a little bit more of a, well, what's the life lesson in here? Is it not giving up? Is it over studying so that you're over prepared so that things are easy? Is it, wow, this is going to take more effort than I thought I was going to have to do? So is it that level of discipline and determination? Is it a matter of identifying sources for assistance when you bump into trouble? So why, for each subject has different things. So why are we studying history? Why are we studying this thing in history? Why are we studying science, etc.? Tap in to the why, because once that light starts to dim and they get confused or frustrated or overwhelmed, if they don't have a reason to grab on to why they need to push through the confusion, push through the overwhelm, push through the frustration, then they're just going to stay there. So tap into the why.